For many years, people have been collecting water that's coming off their roof. Do you have a rain barrel? There are some cautions you need to consider. We are here at the Fair Oaks Horticulture Center talking with vegetable expert and master gardener Gail Pothour. If you hear people around us, it is because it's an open garden day here at the Fair Oaks Hort Center on a beautiful, not quite spring day yet. The weather is very spring-like. And by the way, here it is, late March, and we have a soil thermometer in the ground in the raised beds, which normally have higher soil temperatures. And the soil temperature on a day that promises to be in the 80s, the soil temperature, 50 degrees. If you're thinking of planting tomatoes or peppers, you really want to wait until the soil temperature is at least 65 or 70 degrees. And historically around here in Sacramento, that's usually late April, early May, when the soil temperatures finally are at a point where rapid growth can take place when you stick those plants in the ground. So if the nice weather, especially here on the West Coast, has you thinking, oh, it's tomato planting time, not quite. Let the sun work its magic for a few more weeks. But getting back to rain barrels, I have a rain barrel. A lot of people have rain barrels to collect water because, well, there is a possible drought looming. So you're thinking, okay, I can water my plants with this. Well, hold on. Before you do that, there are some cautions about using that water that's coming from your roof. So if you have a rain barrel, you may want to listen to this. Gail, have you ever had, or do you have a rain barrel now?
I don't have an actual rain barrel. I do have a big galvanized tub that my rain chain falls into. So I do get quite a bit of water whenever we have a good storm. But of course, you have a galvanized stock tank that has its own issues. But my big caution is if you're using a rain barrel, be sure that it's food grade plastic. Usually the rain barrels are plastic, and be sure that it didn't have a former use where it contained chemicals. So just be cautious about that.
Galvanized tank, for example, could be releasing zinc or aluminum.
Cadmium, yeah, I know. And so I only use the rainwater capture that I get on ornamental plants.
Well, that sort of puts a hitch in the giddy up for those who've watched the rain fall into those barrels if you have a collection system, because there's a lot of stuff coming in off the roof, isn't there?
You mean like the wild turkeys that like to live on my roof, and the squirrels and other mammals and rodents, and they're pooping up there. And so there's all kinds of that sort of biological material. There could be chemicals from the roofing material itself. And just from air pollution, if we've had smoke in the air, a lot of that deposits on the roof. So and if you live in an area that maybe has agriculture or industry close by, you could be getting some pollutants on your roof from that. So I just say use caution. There have been some studies from Rutgers, Clemson University, Washington State about using the rainwater capture you get from your roof. And some studies show that, it can be safe under certain conditions. I just say that if you wouldn't drink that water that comes off your roof, I would not put it on edibles. There's too many ifs that could happen. E. coli can be there from bacteria from animal poop. And so just be cautious.
So I guess that sort of limits where you put that water after it's come in the barrel, especially for those who have a complicated system and maybe they have it hooked up to their drip irrigation system. You may want to aim that at ornamental plants?
Yes, and some of the studies show that if you have it released through a drip irrigation system, that could be safer because it doesn't splash up onto the leaves of the plant or onto the fruit of the plant. If you have tomatoes or peppers or cucumbers, keeps it at the soil level. I still would be cautious. Do your research, read some of the reports, and if you're comfortable with it and you are taking all the precautions, making sure that you're disinfecting your rain barrel. When you clean it out, you want to be sure that it's been disinfected. Some of the studies show that you can disinfect the water by using bleach, although I think bleach is not listed on the bleach bottle to be used for disinfecting water. So there's that. And I think it can be too complicated for the home gardener. And so just to be on the safe side, use it on ornamentals. In fact, I did just the other day, my galvanized tank that I catch the water in was full. And so I used it to water my native grasses and some of the bulbs that were coming up. I used it strictly in my landscape.
Could you use it on seed starts if they're edible seeds and you're just getting them off to some growth? The seedlings are up. Could you use that water on those since it's not in a food production stage yet?
Perhaps. I'm not a scientist. I don't know the answer to that. I say just read some of the studies yourself. Google it. Some of the colleges like Rutgers, Washington State Extension, Clemson, Penn State, they've all had information about it. And, it can be safe under certain conditions. I just say be cautious.
We'll have links to those university studies in today's newsletter. Another issue with rain barrels, especially if you don't have it covered properly, is, while that water's sitting there just might be some mosquito action going on.
Absolutely. Unless you drain your water barrel or rain barrel every 10 days or so, you could have a mosquito issue. So put some kind of a screening on it that keeps the mosquito out, also keeps debris out. There's a bunch of stuff that can float in. Like right now, all the flower blossoms are floating around, and I had them all over my rain capture tank. Also, it would keep children out or pets out. You don't want them falling into water that might not be very sanitary.
Mm-hmm. Or skunks or possum.
Absolutely. Keep those critters out. I have an asphalt roof, brand new. I got asphalt, whatever those things are, little sand thing in the bottom of the tank. So all that's coming off the roof. And everything else, the wild turkey stuff is coming off. I just am not comfortable using that water to put on anything edible. Now, if you had a fruit tree where the fruit is up high, as long as it's not splashing on it, perhaps that is okay. But I still think you just need to be real comfortable doing it and know that you have to just take all kind of precautions, making sure things are sanitary, that you're not going to be having any kind of bacteria and germs because they're everywhere.
Here in California, we obviously have a very limited season of rain, which means that 50-gallon rainwater tank is going to only be useful for a few weeks, really.
Right. And I know there are some systems where you hook up the rainwater capture to an irrigation system in your yard. Well, if it's raining, I don't think you need to then have it flow into the soil that's already wet. So, yeah, with us having half a year at least where we're pretty dry, the rain capture is just going to be for a limited time unless you have multiple rain barrels. But even then, that water doesn't go very far.
The best reason I know of for having a rain barrel is to keep the water, especially during real heavy downpours, keep the water from coming into the house, seeping in through the outer wall, which happens at our place. And that's the reason I put a rain barrel in the place I did, because there's a lack of a gutter system up there. And there's just this one spot where water comes down, sort of like the falls at Yosemite.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it also will keep the rainwater from flowing down driveways into the gutter, which, it's good. It goes into the water system. But if there's some way you could infiltrate your soil with that water, that would be helpful. So if you had the gutters that maybe came down into your yard, into a rain garden or something like that, perhaps. But yeah, we're pretty limited in when we can use a rain barrel.
Right. And that's not a bad idea, too, is maybe instead of capturing it for your plants, you have a swale in your yard where you allow that water to basically percolate and help refill the aquifer, if you have an aquifer below your house. And as that water slowly percolates down that low, it gets filtered and hopefully cleaned up.
And that's probably a whole nother conversation, because I know some of the rain gardens need to be engineered by a professional engineer, if they get really sophisticated. So need to think about that as well.
It's too much to think about here.
It is. That's why this is too complicated for a lot of home gardeners like me. I want to make it simple. I'm going to just capture this water and use it on my ornamental plants so I don't have to overthink this. I don't have to worry about any health problems.
There it is, the gospel according to Gail. Rainwater in a rain barrel, use it for your ornamental plants. Gail Pothour, thank you for your research on this.
You're welcome, Fred.
Hello, free subscribers. Welcome back to that infamous Beyond the Garden Basics podcast paywall. There is more to the podcast. It's only available for paid subscribers, and we tackle the topic of how do you know when it's warm enough to plant your tomatoes, peppers, and other heat-loving vegetables and flowers. We'll go in depth on that topic in the rest of the podcast. And in the newsletter, also for paid subscribers, we'll have charts and information with more university-backed sources with more information about determining the correct soil temperature as far as when to plant. And by the way, we'll have one not university-approved method for determining the correct soil temperature when you put in your warm season plants. Your neighbors and the spy satellites might find it very interesting, but it'll work. Again, paid subscribers will have access to the complete podcast as well as the information and a human-reviewed transcript, in the Beyond the Garden Basics newsletter. Paid subscribers also have access to more, including a bonus newsletter each week with more garden tips for success. And paid subscribers also have access to previous editions of the Beyond the Garden Basics newsletter, as well as priority in getting your garden questions answered. Beyond the Garden Basics. The subscriptions are reasonably priced. $5 a month, $50 a year. Your support helps keep the newsletter and podcast alive. Heck, it helps keep me alive, too. And by the way, we are politics free. We want to be your happy place. Join us. I appreciate your eyes and ears on the Beyond the Garden Basics newsletter and podcast. You can find it all on Substack.com. Thank you very much.